Hey, welcome back. Wish I had a hunting story or a fishing story to tell, but instead I have cabin building stories. That's pretty much everything that I've been thinking about for the last couple of months. I've been getting a lot of questions. It's been kind of fun, change of pace, an opportunity to get into some different things and talk about different elements of the life up here. And one of the questions I've been getting a lot is just the equipment that I've been using on the cabin. So I'll go over that. And then also people have been asking me about hunting equipment. So I'm going to go through the gear that I have listed on the OnStep Alaska website, my website. And I've had that stuff for a while, and I've had that up there for 5 or 6 years, and so I'll kinda go through that and see what I still use and, what my thoughts are on that long term. A lot of times you buy a nice pair of hunting pants, you love the hunting pants, and they're good for a season, or a couple trips, and so you write a nice review, five-star review, and then by the end of the season, they are not in the shape that you would have hoped they would be in for the price. So, first with the cabin building, I haven't used any big equipment. There's no road to it. It's a remote build, so there's no all of a sudden showing up with gravel or showing up with an excavator or anything like that. So it's all been with two DeWalt 20-volt drills, a Makita impact driver, Makita Sawzall, Makita 6.5-inch skill saw. Like that's been everything. And part of it is the pre-cut timbers from Pan Abode. That made it super easy, but there has been a lot of cuts made. I've gone through two blades, and actually two of those drills I burnt out one, or saws. I burnt out one of the motors in it trying to make some cuts and really trying to force it through. And when you're cutting plywood, sometimes if it's not equal, if it's not held right, if it's not supported, then it could put extra wear on that. And then also cutting the tongue and groove on the roof so that I would get the fascia up there, and then we put the plywood over that. So just a lot of cuts, a lot of stuff. I ended up burning out the motor on that. I'd had that for about 4 or 5 years. So it wasn't a brand new saw that I burnt out just on this project. So I like the saw. It's nice. It works. I kind of committed to Makita early. There was a local sale. And so once you commit to a tool and that battery pack, they kind of keep you in there with that. And I've been really happy with Makita. I have a buddy who's a contractor and says the batteries really hold up well in the climate here. They work forever. And so he's been happy with those. Well, not work forever, obviously. I just talked about a saw breaking down, but as far as like normal use, they're dependable within what you would expect a saw or some sort of tool to work. So that's what I've been using. It's just been those tools, a chainsaw, obviously for the clearing part, but everything else has just been hauling shovels, hauling gravel with shovels, and mixing concrete in a tote. It's been no heavy equipment. So I have a couple ladders. One of the ladders that I got was a Werner 5-in-1 multi-position ladder, which has been pretty cool. It can extend to an extension ladder. So that's how we've been getting up on the roof. But then also it assumes the position of a normal ladder, but it's nice that you can walk up both sides. So you're not supposed to, but you can walk up one side. And then I was working on the tongue and groove, putting the ceiling up. You can walk to the other side up and over if you wanted to, or kind of straddle it. But it's super sturdy. Really like that ladder. So that's been a great thing. And I also got it's not Werner, it's Louisville. I think I got a Louisville platform to go between the two ladders. So I posted a video on my Instagram of time lapse of me doing some of the roofing. And I'm on 3 different ladders, and I'm just shifting. I'm hitting the tongue and groove. We did tongue and groove decking. The plywood goes on top, and then the underlayment, and then the metal roofing. So when I was in the cabin on ladders, putting the tongue and groove together, I did that time lapse with those 3 ladders, and it was pretty nice to go between the 3. And having that third ladder was huge, and that Werner's the third one that I bought. I had a really light duty Louisville one, and then a heavy duty fiberglass. But if you are doing any sort of leaning or any sort of reaching with that really light work Louisville ladder, it's just one of those ones that you have in your garage to get to a top shelf. It's not really something that's meant for big time construction. So it was nice to have that third ladder that goes to an extension ladder that's been used quite a bit. Really nice to get around there. So Impact driver was really important. The kit called for a sense like what came in the kit were these 10-inch screws, man, and it took a lot of torque, and it really was it was loud and kind of painful. Not really painful, but it sucked to run the impact driver, getting those 10-inch screws in through the timber and into the timber below. So I was in charge of that, and well, obviously I was in charge of that, but did a lot of that, and it just kind of makes your ears ring a little bit. But you needed a tool that had enough torque that could really drive those things, and the Makita impact driver was great for that. So just those applications. Uh, yeah, I think that's all the tools. Pretty much it. So straightforward there. My boat is 21-foot Hughes Craft Sea Runner. It's about 10 years old, has close to 300 hours on the motor, a 150 Yamaha. Everything's been held out there in that. I've been a little bit cautious about the load. I only have about a 1 mile drive from the launch or from house to the launch, but still I have to go downhill, then backing up down the ramp. I didn't want to overload the boat. The Toyota Tacoma, I have room for towing margin, and the engine can handle it. But anytime you start to get up there in tongue weight, and it just puts some stress on the transmission, puts some stress on the brakes. So I've been loading up the boat as much as I can without trying to do some harm to the trailer or to the truck. So everything that has gone out to the build has been in the truck and the boat, or in the boat hauled by the truck, except for some of the subfloor and then the girders. That all came out in my buddy's landing craft. Everything else we've hauled out there in the boat. Used an anchor. It's a 17-pound anchor with 30 feet of chain, so it's pretty light for big weather or even anchoring for halibut. I definitely wouldn't feel comfortable in a windy spot overnight. I'd be a little bit worried that it's a little bit light, but as far as the day anchoring, it's been great. The second anchor on the back, the little buddy or the anchor buddy, is an elastic. Talked about it last week, I think. It's like same principle as like a bungee cord, something that can stretch. And so you drop it and the boat can still drift. Or what I've been doing when I've been backing in is dropping the main anchor and then continuing to drift in backwards until that anchor kind of hits, and I hop off just in time and then grab the little buddy, bring it to shore. And so you can pull on that and pull it to shore. It kind of works against you, but it will recoil back out. So that's nice. So once you're done offloading, then you just kind of let it re-pull back out. So it'll pull back out, and then you won't have to worry about the boat going ashore, going aground. So the anchor buddy has been awesome. The boat's been incredible. There's no way I could have done this without that boat. Yeah. Okay. Transitioning on to hunting gear. I'm on my website here, the OnStep Alaska website where I had it up. Where did I? Oh, here's my gear. So onstepalaska.com, up in the outdoors. If you scroll down that, there's outdoors hunting gear for Alaska. Savage 116 270. I still use my Savage 270. It's a great caliber rifle. I've used it for black bear, used it for deer, stainless steel, just a nice workhorse. I've tried to convince myself to buy different rifles, but I'm not. I don't go to the range and shoot a lot just for fun. I don't. Yeah, I'm not a gun junkie, or I'm not a gun collector. So this is the one that I use that works. 130 grain Hornady SSTs are pretty nice that I use. Again, it just comes down to shot placement. I'm not making really long shots. Most of my shots are between 100 and 200 yards. Anything further than that, I have made shots, but I try to get closer. Especially during rut, it's super, super close. So nothing crazy there. I still have my Stone Glacier Sky Talus 6900. And again, I've had that for probably 6 years now, I think. Holding up really well. I did have one of the stays in the back break, and they replaced that very, very quickly, which is nice in season. So it's pretty easy to just get the new one in there. So if they do break for whatever reason, and I broke mine because I was hunting during rut and I went to sit down on a muskeg, and I put the pack down first, and so the sponginess of the muskeg m made the pack bow a little bit, and that's how it broke. So it wasn't that I was packing any sort of it wasn't proper use. Anytime that you use gear properly, that's what it's meant to do and meant to hold up for, but there's really no reason to sit on the middle of a pack and see if the stays are going to last, because that's not what they're meant for. They're meant for vertical application for weight that is properly strapped in and then strapped to your back. It's not meant to, with nothing in it, be sat on in a non-solid context. So that was the only issue I had with that. I did break one buckle. So one broken buckle, easily replaced, and then a broken stay, which again was my fault. So no complaints about the Stone Glacier Sky Talus. Held together really, really well. The newer versions are pretty similar. The materials it's a little bit more waterproof. My wife got a newer one, and that more waterproof material makes it nice. So you can use a pack cover, but if you're just going through brush and it happens to be damp, eventually my pack will get wet, whereas my wife's won't. So that's kind of a nice thing about having a newer pack. But I'm not in the market for buying a new pack. That thing works, and I really like it. Game bags, Argali High Country pack. I've gotten 2 sets of Argalis. They're pretty nice. They wash up pretty good. Again, I've had those for a couple of years now. So after a while of using them, they're gonna degrade, as any game bag will. I've gotten the Stone Glacier ones. I really like the Stone Glacier ones too. They got a nice clip, so it's easier to attach it to trees or branches when you're hanging it. So I still have the Argali game bags, but I'm currently using Stone Glacier. I don't think you can go wrong either way. I do like the buckles, the Stone Glacier. So if I were to buy another set of one of those, it would be because of that. But I'm not sure. Argali might have a buckle now. So yeah, as these companies see what other companies are doing, it just makes it better. They're not going to have an inferior product, and so they kind of look at what other people are doing and then do their version of that. So it just makes things better and better. So just because I have Stone Glacier now does not mean I would not buy Argali. Argali Carbon, I have an Argali Carbon knife, still use it. It's definitely taken some sharpening. I have a knife from Alaska Blade Works, which I really like too. And I've been using it on the construction side. I haven't used it on an animal yet, but I've been using it at the construction site quite a bit. And I really like that. Really, really sharp. So definitely recommend that. Stone Glacier Gators, man, those things are awesome. They are really, the bot where it hooks underneath the boot sometimes gets a little bit loopy, and so if you don't lift up your foot, you can get caught on stuff. But they have fit better than any other gator I've had, and they've lasted longer. I've had Outdoor Research gators, I've had Sitka gators, and the Stone Glacier gators are by far the best. Got a Kifaru sheep tarp, really like that. I mean, it's a tarp. It's just a little thing to set up when it's rainy and windy, and up here, it's nice to get out of the rain, but also it insulates and it keeps that heat in. So if you are soaking wet and you're trying to glass, like, you're going to get cold, but that sheep tarp is going to keep you a little bit warmer. And that's, whatever tarp you get. If you get the Stone Glacier tarp, you get a whatever tarp, it's all going to work. So I really like that. Katula micro spikes, I don't wear them a lot, but I do have them. They're great. The reinforced eyelet is really important. I had a pair that was just the rubber, and after, slopping around in that alpine mud and having a lot of weight, the chain would work its way out or tear a hole in the rubber. So the reinforced eyelet is really nice for that. So that makes them much, much better. So the latest iteration of those has been good, and I've had those for 4 or 5 years. I don't wear them a ton, so it's not like they're getting 50 days a season times 5 seasons. I wear them, 2 or 3 times a year, and so I've had them for 4 or 5 years now, and they're still up. Again, just because of kind of not lack of use, but if I were to need them, I would definitely trust them and depend on them. Black Diamond Distance Carbon trekking poles. I take those every single time. There, it's nice to have that other point of contact, and those things are stinking so nice. I have the fixed trekking pole. It's got the interior, whatever that thing is, and you kind of pull it tight, and then you can't adjust the height, which is fine. The height's good for me. My wife has the adjustable, and she likes the adjustable, but Black Diamond as a brand is really good for those poles. And so I've had in the last 10 years, I've had only two sets of trekking poles. They've both been Black Diamond, and they just stink and last. I did have the interior go out in the first pair, but the other one still works. So, yeah, I mean, that thing, I take them on every alpine trip, and I'll take them sometimes on a rut trip too. It's nice to just kind of have another point of contact, or just have it to help if I deploy. If I'm sitting and calling on the edge of a muskeg and I get the sheep tarp out and I'm sitting there in the rain, I'll have a trekking pole there to keep it to keep the sheep tarp up. So I really enjoy those. That's I'm probably most amped about my trekking poles than anything else. It's definitely not something I'm going to shop around and look at other trekking poles or try other trekking poles. Like, why? These work. They're awesome. Katahdin Hiker Pro water filter. I like Katahdin. Yeah, I've had a whole bunch of different ones. They've had like a handled one that I had the handle break, and so they went to more of like a push one, and that was fine. I'm on a gravity filter now, which I really like, but whatever works. Up here, we're not really worried about finding water. There typically is more water than you could ever want. Sometimes you do have to kind of, in some of those alpine puddles, the first inch and a half is nice water. Everything else below it is just this settled organic material. And so those clog the filter so stinking fast. So you really got to be careful about when you're scooping up the water to not get a lot of that extra garbage in there, because that's going to plug the filter pretty quick. So if you can get one of those alpine puddles that has a rock bottom, then that's really nice. You can get a lot more water, and you're going to save your filter. Rain gear, I got the Black Diamond Liquid Point pants. Still have those. They are not as waterproof as they were, but for like a light rain, or if you're going to get stinking soaking wet as you hike off the mountain, then it's nice. They're fine. You're going to be wet, but it's going to insulate, and it's better to be wet from sweat than it is wet from just the rain, because that's a cold one that'll sap the heat from you. So kind of insulating and keeping that sweat in, at least to keep you warm. So when you take a break, you're cooling down, you're not getting cold. So I still have those pants, had those for a while. Also have the Stone Glacier M5. I think I still have those. Yeah, they're somewhere. Yeah, I have the M5 pant. They're pretty nice. I don't know. But that's the jacket. That's the jacket. I don't have the M5 pant. I have the M7 pant, and that is the one that has a little bit of fleece lining in it. And I like those pants a lot. They're great for rut. They aren't totally they are waterproof if you're hanging out or you're walking in the rain. But if you're walking through brush in the rain, then the branches and the grass is going to force the water through any sort of rain pant. So unless you're wearing Grundon's bibs, water is going to be eventually forced through. So if you're walking through, sometimes the muskeg will have like waist high grass, and they're large blades and have a lot of water. So after a half mile of that, water is going to be collecting, and you are brushing up against it. And so that stuff is going to start to force the water through, because any technology that vents means that water is going to try to figure out a way to get in. So any breathable material is something that we don't really trust up here, or we at least know what to expect. And so if you buy the Stone Glacier M7 pants and you are walking around and you happen to get wet, it's like, well, what was the application? Did you properly use it? And that's kind of the central question there. But I'm a big fan of the M7 pants. It's nice to be able to zip down the sides to vent heat if need be. I wear those when it's really cold during rut. Really, really enjoy those pants. Great pants. A lot of times in October, November, if it is 37 and rainy or 41 and raining, I'll just go the Grundon's Neptune 507 commercial bib. And those bibs are waterproof. So you can sit down on a muskeg and you'll get cold, but water's not going to get through. And it's just nice to, again, it's totally There's no breathability, but that's not what you're looking for. You're looking for just keeping yourself dry. You're going to get wet from sweat from hiking around, but at least you're going to be dry. You can climb over logs, and you're going to be fine. And that stuff's, it might scuff at the most, but I've had those bibs for years, and it's been great. The Stone Glacier M7, I think I've had those for 3 years. Those pants been 3 years, so they've really been holding up pretty well. But yeah, if it's October, November, and it's going to be super rainy, then just go with the Grundens commercial grade bibs and pants, and make sure you get the right pants. That there's some commercial fishing pants that are really thick and wide legged. You want the thin, lighter bibs that are still made of that same material that's going to keep all the water out, but it's going to be a lot easier to walk and a lot quieter to walk. The larger ones with the larger legs, they really make a lot of noise when you're trying to get through stuff or you're just walking. So binos, Vortex Razor HD 10x42. I've had those for years, still have them. 7, 8 years, I think. They've been awesome. Really, really like them. The eyepiece, or the whatever component on the outside of the eyepiece, is kind of coming off low, so I got to get that replaced. But they've been great. I've dropped them many times on rock, and they've been fine, still very clear. So 7 or 8 years with those. It's been great. Spotting scope is at least, I think that thing is 10 years old. Razor HD, angled, really like that. Vortex Ranger 1500 rangefinder. Been using that. Still really like it. Scope Razor HD 3x15x42, 3 to 15x42. I did fog that one up, and they replaced it really quick, which is nice. That's been key to have things replaced if need be. But like I said, I haven't had to replace the binos, haven't had to replace the rangefinder, just had to replace the scope, and they replaced it, no sweat. So that's hunting gear. For fishing gear, I think I have a list of fishing gear. Do I have a list of fishing gear? I got a 7-weight Sage Method for steelhead. Really like that. The Lamson Guru reel is super sweet. I've had the Method for 12 years, I think. So, and I think that model has been discontinued, and I think the next iteration has also been continued. So I'm like 2 generations behind on that. But man, I love that rod. It's a fast action rod, and really enjoy it. Lamson makes just phenomenal reels. I know I've fished with a Nautilus. My buddy Dagan had a Nautilus, and they're all awesome. They're cool once you get to that good level. The price point of the Lamson is really nice. So I know they make fly rods now. I haven't cast any of those. I haven't messed around with those, but Lamson's, their high end models of reels are just so great. The first nice reel I bought was a Lamson Guru for a 5-weight fly rod I had, and I remember I was in California and I slipped and fell, and I just smashed the reel on a rock, and it just worked. It dented slightly, or like there's a little like a nick in it, but it didn't dent. Like everything worked. I thought, man, this is a really strong reel. And from that point on, I've just been kind of Lamson guy. I also have a Galvin T6. I've had that for 10, 12 years. Like that a lot. The reason why I have these for so long sometimes is, again, there's different applications, and so I'll use the Galvin for steelhead, or I'll use the Lamson with my switch rod for steelhead, and so kind of mix and match those. And we don't have, I go salmon fishing in the river a little bit, but most of the time the salmon fishing I'm doing is from the boat. So 10 years with those reels isn't, again, 100 days of use times 10 years. So just kind of keep that in mind. Waders, I've worn Sims, and they were fine. They, wore out after a little bit. I went to Redington because they were cheaper, and if you're going to go through a pair of waders every year and a half or so, then I figured might as well just go cheaper. But I got a pair of Grundens, and they are so great. It seems like the size, Redington doesn't make waders anymore, but the sizing seemed to just be wider. So you still order that size, and it was just wider to accommodate like bigger people. I don't know. It's just the cut was weird. But when you order the Grundens ones, there's different sizes within the size. And so you're ordering a booty size, or the neoprene booty size. The the wader size, and then you can get taller. So there's just a lot of different dimensions that make it nice. And so your large isn't just kind of this general large all across. You can get a fit that's a little bit more custom to you. I have not worn them fishing yet, but I have worn them at the build site when I'm offloading things. I don't want to get off the boat, get soaking wet, hauling stuff to the lot, and then have to either change clothes or build when I'm wet. So I throw the waders on, and then I've been hiking or just the shuttling either plywood or planks or roofing to shore. And there have been times where while I'm hauling it to shore and then from the beach to the build site, where you get that metal roofing and it can be pretty abrasive, and so I've tried to keep it away from the waders, but there have been times where it's kind of rubbed up against it and it hasn't scuffed or anything. So that's definitely rugged use that's going to be more than you're going to get when you're standing in a water or you're hiking down a trail to get to a river. So my Grundens waders are the best waders I've ever owned, and I'm really excited about them. Again, I've only had them for a couple of weeks, but they passed the construction test, and so that's a that's a pretty brutal test, and that's going to say a lot. So big fan of those. Flannel, yeah. If there is something that is of vital importance, it is to have a nice work flannel. I bought a Filson flannel on sale, and yeah, you buy some companies will or you buy a flannel that looks okay-ish and it's a little bit cheaper and it just starts to break down during use. Even it's fine, and then you wash it a couple times and the stitching starts to come out. So Filson is stinking expensive, but man, I have carried lumber and plywood and everything. And if you've ever hauled anything, there's a lot of times that your forearms and wrists come in contact with that abrasive piece of wood or concrete or whatever it is. And this flannel shirt just does not, it just takes it. And it's been really nice to have that dependable go-to flannel I put on, and it's not going to rip, it's not going to tear. It's my favorite flannel, and I'm wearing it for this construction. So I've been really happy with that construction. It's the last couple of years I've been rethinking a lot about quality because I just don't like buying things 2 or 3 times, and also looking at what a company specializes in and just sticking with that specialization. There's a lot of companies who do one thing pretty well, like, oh, we're going to get into the apparel too, and we'll do a flannel, and the flannel ends up being kind of weird fitting or just not really, you know. Filson's been around for over 100 years, and so they have a lot of experience. And I know that private equity, they were acquired by private equity, and so anytime that happens, people think the quality goes down. And so it may have, but still, man, like that flannel. And I bought a couple other things from Filson, and I took a David Coggins recommendation to go on eBay and see what you can find there. Sometimes you can find new stuff. Sometimes you can find gently used. I haven't bought any gently used stuff, but that's a way to kind of not have to pay full price on that, but still get something that's really quality. People cycle through those nice things pretty quickly. Same thing with, you go on Facebook Marketplace and someone buys the entire Kuiu set, and then there's a new whatever that comes out, or new Sitka camo that comes out, and it's just a different color. Or you can go to the store and you can get 2 seasons ago's camo for cheaper because there's a new one, but it's brand stinking new. 2 years ago, it was what everybody was buying at full price. So there's definitely, you don't have to be paying retail for all this stuff, but it's nice to get good stuff that you can trust, whether that be waders, hunting gear, fishing gear, whatever. Just buy the good stuff and have it last. So I think that'll do it. We're gonna head out and do windows today with a couple buddies, windows and the door, and then it will be all set to go. I'll have to do the trim around the windows maybe tomorrow, but Wednesday I'm off to Madison for the Outdoor Writers Association of America conference, which I'm really excited about. A break from cabin building, but also a chance to meet some people in the outdoor writing, photography, podcasting realm. I'm really excited for that. And yeah, then school starts. So it's over. All summer was cabin building and being a dad. So yeah, that's what happens though. Be a great thing to be able to enjoy going forward. So as stressful as it was and as bad an attitude I had at times during the build, I'm really glad that I went through with it, really glad that I did it. And as I said last week, I think if I would have known, like I knew conceptually or intellectually, there'd be ups and downs, but if I would have known just exactly what the downs would have been, then I might have been a little bit less likely to go through with it. But that's what everything is. You never know, and you don't want to be so scared of so scared of it being bad that you don't do it. You can handle it, figure it out, make it happen. So thanks for listening, and talk to you next time. Thanks for listening. Please like and share. If you found today's conversation useful, you can go deeper with my writing on Substack. That's where I expand on these ideas from the show, share essays, reporting, and things I'm thinking about in real time. You can find it at From the 49th on Substack. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time.